Hi everyone, Stjepan here. In today's video I'm going to go over the round 3 game from Zadar Open, in which I faced a lower rated opponent after having lost round 2 in that endgame in which I should have repeated the position, gone for a draw. But anyway, so this was on day 2, double round. The game was in the afternoon. I was pretty tired, and I have to say I didn't feel well after what happened in round 1. But still, you have to pick yourself up and go to the game enthusiastic and try to win and all of that. So I'm playing a 1600 guy, young player, 15 or 16 years old. Could be quite dangerous. I didn't see a lot of his games because there weren't many online, but the ones that I did see, some were very decent. I saw that he plays e4, I saw that he plays the open Sicilian against the Sicilian, and now Sveshnikov is now my main defense. It's not the Caro-Kann anymore against e4, so I went for that. So e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6. And this game, as you're going to see, is probably one of the ugliest miscalculations I've ever made and one of the worst swindles I've ever done in a game. I played a move that you are going to see. Okay, so d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight to c3, and now e5. This is the Sveshnikov Sicilian, or also known as the Lasker Pelican variation, but most people call it the Sveshnikov after Evgeny Sveshnikov, who is still alive and still playing. Okay, so now there's only one good move in this position, and that's knight b5. Knight b5 is the main line, and after d6 the position continues. There are a ton of variations here, starting with either bishop g5 or knight d5. But for example, bishop g5, and now a6, chasing the knight to a, knight to a3, b5, knight to d5, and now white is playing for the d5 square, black is playing around the knight that's occupying the d5 square, and black wants to play f5, eventually crush white. That's the idea behind the Sveshnikov. However, there are several moves against the Sveshnikov which could work but are inferior to knight b5. The best alternative is knight to e2, which is a good move, and black has to continue knight, bishop c5, etc., etc. One move which leads to sort of equality is knight f5, but after d5 takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, black is supposed to have a slight edge, or at least equality, which white definitely does not want to allow. The center has opened up, the position is wide open, and it's anybody's game. And two bad moves after e5 are knight b3 and knight f3. Now, why are these two moves bad? Well, if you go knight to b3, I just go bishop to b4, pinning your knight, and eventually I'm either going to win the e4 pawn or ruin your pawn structure, or both. Most commonly both. So in this position, d5, pawn takes, knight takes, bishop to d2, and now simply knight takes c3. B takes c3, bishop d6, and you can see that black obviously has a structural edge. The same thing goes for knight f3, and my opponent played knight f3. So you do the same thing, you try to punish a retreat to a better square, which is, well, impossible in theory, and can be refuted in theory by putting pressure on e4 and on the structure, more specifically on the pawns in the c file. So bishop to b4. And I had done some studying on how to refute these variations, but I never really went in depth because I never expected somebody to actually play knight f3. So I knew that I should play bishop b4, I knew that I should open the position up with d5 as soon as possible and either induce a structural weakness on the c file or win the e4 pawn. I didn't think I needed much more. Okay, so bishop b4, he played bishop d3, which is understandable. I went d5. I also knew that for some reason the engine prefers the move queen e7, which I don't understand, and I didn't really take enough time to try and understand. And most humans have played d5, so I played d5 because it makes more sense. He has to take, I'm threatening to win the knight, or he has to play bishop d2, but in that case I'm just going to take twice on e4, win a pawn. So e d5, knight d5, bishop to d2, this is all normal. And now there are a couple of ways to play this, and this I still knew. The best way to take is to take with the bishop so that you don't have to waste tempo with your knight, but then you don't have a bishop pair, and even though you have a better pawn structure, your opponent having the bishop pair is important and can be deadly. So I prefer taking with the knight. Once you take with the knight, your opponent should of course take with the b pawn. If they take with the bishop, then you simply have a better pawn structure for nothing. And in this position, the most precise move is to play bishop d6, so that you don't get in trouble with your e5 pawn. But the most active move is bishop c5, which I like, and which I've seen before, and I know is inferior to bishop d6, but it's more active. In this position, my opponent castled. And here, a lot of pressure is going to be put on e5, but I can still defend it tactically, which is why bishop c5 is not the losing move, it's just an inferior move. And black still has a slight advantage. With bishop d6, black has -1. In this position, I did not really want to castle. If I castle, I mean, there are no threats with bishop takes, pawn takes, knight check. And here, because I always have this bishop to cover the light squares, there are no Greek gift ideas, but I still want to be careful, so I played bishop g4, which is, I think, the most active move and just stops counterplay, defends e5 indirectly, and yeah. He played h3, I played bishop h5, he played bishop e2, which I thought was very passive, I think rook e1. Well, okay, he for now has to defend, his knight is hanging, but still rook e1, e4 can be met with, well, can it, actually? Okay, rook e1. No, e4 is defended by the bishop, what am I talking about? So yeah, rook e1, rook e1. Bishop e2 seems very passive. And here I played bishop g6. What I should have done is I should have castled. Bishop g6 is a mistake. If I castle, I'm simply better. If yeah, and he's not really threatening to win anything because the bishop is hanging in the end. So if I castle and what was my calculation? Takes. If he takes here. No, wait, that's not the one. Okay, so takes. Wait. No, there's something I saw in this position. Wait. Okay, so knight takes, bishop takes, knight takes, bishop takes, knight takes, bishop takes, knight takes. And I have a pawn down. But I have the bishop pair. I don't know actually. I'm going to check this position out with an engine because I never really took it seriously during the game. And I thought that castling is fine for that reason. Wait, what happens if knight takes? Am I missing something? Bishop takes. What if he takes my knight? Ah, Jesus, I can just defend the bishop. Okay, sorry. Stupid. I hope I would have found that during the game. Okay, but instead of that, I played bishop g6 to get my bishop out of harm's way and to put pressure on c2. He played bishop b5 and I played queen c7. Now, the winning of the pawn doesn't work. Knight takes e5 doesn't work. If you thought queen takes e5, rook e1, I can take with the queen takes e5, and if rook to e1, I have the move bishop e4. And since the f2 pawn is pinned, I just keep my piece. And I don't know what he does, probably something like bishop d3, I just go f5. If queen h5, g6, bishop takes e4, I can just castle. And eventually I'm going to get the piece back. Okay, yeah, I think I am going to get the piece back. Let's see. What if he retreats to d3? Yeah, okay, I just take the rook first, he takes, and I take his queen. So my calculation there was correct. Queen c7 was playable, and I saw that this bishop e4 saves the day. Okay, he played rook to e1, which is probably the best move, and now I can either castle, I could play f6, which is risky, but instead of that I decided to play the worst move in the history of moves. This will be a funny exercise, but if you want, pause the video and find a tactical blunder for black. It's a very tempting move, but it simply doesn't work. And okay, pause the video if you want. Okay, so the move I played seems very nice, looks like it works, but if you're blind like me, then you could miss the refutation, the easy refutation, which is possible because my king is still on e8. Okay, so here's what I thought. I don't want to castle here. I want to win a pawn, and let's win a pawn. So bishop takes f2. And after king takes f2, queen to b6 check attacks the unprotected bishop on b5. However, well, I got up from the board, walked around, went to the toilet, whatever. When I came back, I saw knight d4 on the board, and I almost threw up. And I don't know why I missed it. Of course, you can see that a piece can just defend the other piece. That's not hard to see. The thing I missed or didn't consider is that I still didn't castle, which is horrible. So now he's just a piece up. I have nothing for the piece. And I have to castle to threaten the knight. There are no better options. And after castling, he of course takes on c6, and I take on d4. So now he has to retreat the bishop, bishop f3. And in this position, I'm simply a bishop down. For the moment, I have a pawn for that bishop, which is nothing. And I need to play for tricks. So, of course, I'm not giving up. I'm not going to resign. I wouldn't resign even if I were playing a much higher rated opponent than myself. I would still try to complicate matters. But so yeah, I played for tricks. So in this position, of course, I don't want to trade off pawns here. I want to check, d3 check. And even though bishop to e3 is coming, seemingly losing a pawn for me, I'd calculated, when I saw knight d4, I'd actually calculated correctly a couple of moves in advance, so d takes c2. So now I have two pawns for the bishop, and one of the pawns is very dangerous. In this position, if he takes my queen, I should be slightly better even. Queen takes, and I win the bishop back, have pressure on the a file, and if he takes my pawn, I take his pawn with check, and it's probably a drawn position, but if anybody can win, it's me. So he doesn't do that, he played queen to d2. And now again, getting my pieces into play, rook a to d8 with tempo. If he takes on b6, I take on d2 with check, again, winning my piece back. He would have to cover with rook e2, rook takes c2, king takes c2, and a takes b6. I would simply be a pawn up. So he has to play bishop d4, which I'd expected. Now again, I'm trying to play for tricks. What's the trickiest move in this position which doesn't do anything? That's what I had to ask myself. So I played the move bishop to queen to c7. The idea behind queen to c7 is using the pressure on the c2 pawn indirectly. If he wants to win my c2 pawn, he's going to have to move his bishop away. If he wants to move his bishop away, he's going to have to move his queen from the d file. If he plays bishop a7, then b6 wins the bishop. Okay, so in this position, it's obvious that he cannot take on c2 because rook takes d4, wins the bishop. He can't take because the queen would be pinned. He played bishop e4 anyway, which I think is still the best move, but not because he takes on c2, because he trades my bishop off, and then just leaves the pawn there, wins it later, plays rook c1, something normal, and wins. Okay, and here I had to play a waiting move. I don't have a way to improve my position. I don't want a rook on the e file because I can't afford to trade any more pieces, so I played b6, which is a nothing move, does nothing, but at least it protects my a7 pawn and wastes time. And you know, I'm sure you know that moment when you hope for your opponent to blunder, and it happens, and you sigh with relief and feel like you did not deserve that. Okay, so in this position he took on c2, which when I saw, I felt like 100 tons were lifted off my shoulders, and the game is now winning for black. So bishop takes bishop, queen takes bishop, rook takes bishop, and now I'm simply a pawn up with a much safer king and much more active pieces, which is more than enough to win. Have pressure on c3. In this position he played king to g1, I went rook c4, he went rook a to c1, I went rook to c8, and now rook e3, which is a terminal mistake because of queen c5, and now I'm constantly going to be pinning his rook. He played queen d2, rook e4, rook e1, rook c2 e8, king f2, g6, making luft to make sure that I don't get back rank checkmated. And in this position he went king f3, which is the losing move. If you want to pause the video, black to play and win. Okay, the winning move here is queen to f5, which either wins the queen for a rook or checkmates. So he has two options, only two moves. King to e2 fails to rook takes, and he of course has to take with the queen, and this is now a queen for a rook. And what he played, king to g3 fails to queen f4, checkmate. After the game, or immediately after king to g3, queen f4, I said, I'm sorry, I played like an idiot, you should have won the game. He said, there's no need to be sorry, and I think he was a really nice guy. Especially, it's nice to see a 15-year-old kid who's mature and knows how to take defeat, especially in a game that he should have won. And I was really mad at him because he didn't take his time when he was a piece up. When I'm a piece up or a pawn up, I take 20 minutes for every move. I almost wanted to tell him, don't blunder on c2 before he did. I felt sorry for him, I really did. And I think there's a great lesson there for him and for me to be taken from this game. I'm kind of ashamed to be showing these games, but as I said, I think it's a good vent to let it all out, and I feel easier when I do. Let me know what you think about this. I know it's a horrible game and a horrible swindle, but what can you do? That's chess. Okay, see you tomorrow. Stay tuned for more chess. Bye bye.